My mother has been criticizing me ever since I got married and is now attempting to arrange marriages for my underage daughters. I can't believe I'm having to share this about my mother, but here we are. I, 45F, have always had a complicated relationship with my mother, 71F. She comes from an old-school traditional background and was a stay-at-home wife who never worked outside the home. She raised a large family, having 7 girls and 6 boys, which, in my opinion, is an overwhelming number of children. Originally from Guatemala, she moved to the U.S. at 14, married my father here, and started her family. She tried to instill old-fashioned values in me and my siblings, though, unfortunately, she didn't succeed in doing so. Most of my siblings are as far removed from my mother as possible, with 2 of them sadly having passed away. I'm the only one who stayed close to help care for my parents. After my father's death, I've been responsible for covering my mother's expenses so she can live comfortably. Throughout this time, she has been a dramatic and difficult presence in my life, especially when it comes to my marriage. She has always taken my husband's side, even when it was clearly not in my best interest. I only ever wanted 1 child, but my husband insisted on having as many children as biologically possible, despite previously telling me he only wanted 1 when we discussed marriage. My mother played a big role in encouraging him, even going as far as helping him interfere with my birth control to ensure I would get pregnant with my youngest daughter. While I love my youngest and don't regret her, after her birth, I secretly had my tubes tied. My mother continually berated me for not having more children, calling me faulty for only having 2. On top of that, she criticized my choice to marry at 22, especially since she married at just 16. My husband, 49, passed away recently in a car crash. We shared 2 daughters, ages 14 and 16. He had also been involved in an affair with a 24-year-old woman since 2020. Tragically, she died in the crash, but their twin boys, born earlier this year, survived. My daughters were the first to find out about the affair when their father took them to the hospital to meet the babies and told them to keep it a secret from me. They didn't, and soon after, my husband became abusive toward both them and me. We were in the process of getting a divorce when he died. When the affair was revealed, my mother placed the blame squarely on me. She said it was because I was a working woman and didn't please my husband. She claimed I didn't give him enough children and that I wasn't pretty anymore. I'm not claiming to be exceptionally attractive, but I do think I look good for my age. I've kept my weight in check and I look relatively youthful for someone my age. Still, according to my mother, I wasn't good enough for my husband, who apparently needed someone younger, closer to our daughter's age. She also became upset with me when I refused to adopt my husband's affair children. The latest troubling thing my mother has done is start trying to arrange marriages for my daughters, with a particular focus on my eldest. This all began when my eldest daughter came out to us. I had a suspicion, but I'm grateful she felt comfortable enough to tell me and her sister. She also told my mother, who ended the call abruptly. Then she called me to yell about how confused and sick my daughter is. She sent me links to conversion camps, psychologists who claim homosexuality is a sickness, and various political articles. She even suggested trying an exorcism. Okay? I told her to stop, or I would have no choice but to cut off contact with her and my in-laws. My mother stopped her behavior for about 24 hours. But then, I received a Facebook message from a man in his mid-20s asking if it was true that I was trying to marry off my 16-year-old daughter. I told him he was sick and blocked him, but then 6 more messages came through overnight. The next day, my mother called, claiming she had found husband prospects for my daughters, my high school-age daughters. Needless to say, I was furious. It gets worse. She even gave some of these men my daughter's cell phone numbers. As a result, we're all getting new phone numbers tomorrow, and I had the girls set their social media accounts to private. I honestly don't know what's going on in my mother's mind. I've had the girls block her on everything, and I've stopped making payments for anything she might need. At this point, I'm considering calling the police, though I never thought I'd have to report my own mother. It's only been 2 weeks since I had to cut ties with my in-laws, and I'm just completely exhausted. I want to emphasize that this is not a typical Hispanic cultural issue. My aunts, who are mostly homemakers, are incredible women, and they fully support me in cutting ties with my mother and even contacting the authorities. They've even suggested that my daughters and I move closer to them in another state. This behavior is purely my mother's twerk, and it's completely out of character for our family. Small update. We went to the police today, and they took all the information I had. The officer we spoke to was extremely helpful and immediately assisted my lawyer with everything needed for a temporary restraining order, RO. We'll be filing it this week and hope to have it in place within the month. After that, we'll focus on obtaining a permanent RO. The order will cover my mother and anyone acting on her behalf. The officer was also kind enough to offer daily check-ins on us and our home. We've notified the school about the situation, and one of my brothers will be coming to stay with us until we figure out if and when we might move. I can't just pick up and leave right away because I still have my job, and the girls are in the middle of their school year. For now, we're safe, and the girls have new phone numbers. Update. Some positive developments have occurred recently regarding my mother. As of November 2024, she will be financially independent, and there's an ongoing investigation into her actions concerning my daughters. Additionally, an old family-related investigation has been reopened, though I can't go into details at the moment. Due to the charges against her, we may be able to expedite the restraining order, especially since minors are involved, so I'm hoping for good news on that front. The restraining order will also prevent some others, mainly my in-laws, from contacting me. On a different note, after discussing it with my daughters, we've all agreed that we no longer feel comfortable in our current house. It's a bit heartbreaking because it was my childhood home and a gift from my dad, but there's just too much emotional baggage tied to it. Everywhere I look, I can't shake the feeling of my husband's betrayal hanging over the space. The girls also dislike how close we are to their grandparents, and my brother, who's moved in with us, has been very honest about how stressful the house has become for everyone. So, after careful thought, I've decided to make some repairs and either sell or rent it out. It's a large house with 9 bedrooms, way more space than we need, and I'd be happy with something half the size where the girls can each have their own room and I can have an office. My brother will also stay with us after the move. I'm not sure if it's a permanent situation, but he's been an incredible support for my eldest daughter, especially with LGBTQ+ matters. While I try my best to understand, my brother, being gay and having come out nearly 30 years ago, has been an invaluable resource for advice and guidance, particularly after my mother's recent behavior. My youngest is also doing much better. She's back to her usual self, speaking more freely, and no longer seems as anxious about going out. She's been very excited about looking for a new home with me, specifically wanting a perfect yard. So we're looking forward to that. My job has offered me a transfer out of state, though an international transfer is also a possibility, albeit unlikely for me. So a fresh start seems to be on the horizon. That's all for now. There's not much in the way of new developments, but I'm making decisions and settling my mind after considering the advice I've received here and discussing things with those close to me. As of November, I'm officially cutting ties with my mother. To me, my parents no longer exist since my father passed away. Update. Just a brief update to let everyone know we're doing well. I still can't share many specifics, but we finally have a court date for the restraining order. It's taken longer than I expected, but things have been relatively quiet for now. I'll update you all with more information when I can.
Thanks for tuning in. If you liked this video, consider subscribing